I think one of the most painful things about breakups is that they often happen at the very time that we feel we were letting our guard down and being more of ourselves, revealing more of who we are or revealing more of our life. And when we get broken up with, in those moments, it is a particular kind of painful because it feels like we are being rejected at our core. A lot of us, when we date in the first few weeks and sometimes even months, it can feel like we're sending out our representative on our behalf to look as good as possible, sound as good as possible, be as easy as possible to be around, not bring any of the complications of our lives, our personalities to the table. And of course, all of this is a time when we feel quite insecure because deep down, we know there's more of me you don't know. There's more of my life and the reality of my life that you're not experiencing. And we're terrified that when they get to know all of that, that's going to be the point where they decide that we're not for them. So in that moment where we finally reveal more, where we finally get comfortable enough, relaxed enough, feel safe enough to say, this is me, this is my life. And that person says, I suddenly don't want this. It is like our worst fear coming true. So I wanted to talk about this idea. And if you've experienced anything like this, give you 5 things that I think can make a huge difference that can not only ease your heartbreak, but restore a sense of confidence that might feel like it was taken from you by someone leaving. If you don't know me, I'm Matthew Hussey. I have been coaching people in their love lives for 17 years, helping them with both confidence and relational intelligence. While you're here, I would really appreciate you liking this video, subscribing to this channel, and hitting the notification bell so that the next time I release a video, you are among the first to find out. Okay, on to the video. I have 5 things that I want to say about this situation that I think are both going to alleviate some of the heartache you may feel and also help restore some of the confidence that you feel you may have lost. The first thing I want to say is that it's all data. When someone sees a part of your life or a part of your personality and decides that based on that, they don't want to be around anymore, that's data. And it's data that this person either doesn't really see you or sees you but doesn't accept you. And the ultimate that all of us should be aspiring to in a healthy relationship is that someone gets us. Someone sees us in our life and says, I want that. Not that we have to constantly hide things from someone for them to continue wanting us. So rather than thinking this person was the right person and I blew it that weekend, when I took them home to my family or where we spent time together and I actually let them in on the way that my disability makes me tired or the way my chronic pain affects me, or I finally let them stay over for the weekend and they saw me caring for a sick relative that is the reality of my life, whatever it may be. If someone at that point says, I can't do this, then that's data that they are not the right person for you. I think that we spend so much of our dating lives worrying about the parts of us that are going to scare someone away, instead of realizing that all of these different parts of us that get revealed over time are really an opportunity for us to gather data about how right for us someone is. If we show a part of our lives, if we invite someone home for the weekend and they meet the family and they go, I can't do this, I'm out, then that's a crucial piece of data, especially if your family is really, really important to you. If they can't even stick around for that, or at least respect that relationship and say, you know what, God, you have a crazy family, but we'll figure it out. If they can't deal with that part of you, And it doesn't have to just be something external. It could be something internal, you revealing more about yourself. Then that's a great data point that this person doesn't really see you and doesn't really accept you. That's really, really important to know. So many of us look at these moments that, feel like it all went wrong after that moment, after I revealed that thing, after I spoke that insecurity, after I introduced them to this part of my life, my reality of the fact that I am a single parent, the reality of the fact that I have a disability that can make life difficult for me sometimes and that I have to manage, or the reality that I'm looking after a sick relative. When we introduce people to a part of our lives like that, and then as a result, it looks like they bolted, that was the moment they broke up with us, we pinpoint that as the exact moment where somehow we screwed up. Where if I'd have just not introduced them to that, if I hadn't said that thing, then they would still be with me. I screwed up, or my situation is bad. Instead, we have to start flipping it and saying, that was a chance for me to see if this person really accepted me in my life. And if the answer is they didn't, then this isn't the right person for us. You didn't screw it up by introducing them to your life. You got the piece of data you needed to discover they weren't right for you. Number 2, in order to get that data on whether someone is right for us, we have to actually introduce someone to our real life. We should ask ourselves the question, why is it sometimes it's so long before I realize that someone doesn't actually want to sign up for my real life or my real personality? And the answer much of the time is because we took so long to close the gap between what I think of as our dating life and our real life. There's a big difference between the representative of ourselves and our life that we often send out on the first few dates or weeks or even sometimes months of dating, whose job it is to show us at our best all the time, to be as low maintenance as possible, to not bring any of the dramas of our life into the picture with a person, to keep them away from every crazy aunt and uncle and difficult challenge we have in our life, and just keep them in this bubble of romance where they can keep seeing us as this wonderful person to be around. But at a certain point, someone, if we're to determine whether they're really right for us, has to be brought into our real life and our real selves. I think of this as being epitomized by the difference between what we want and what we need. When we're only acting out of what we want, which is a shiny, charismatic, exciting, sexy person with lots of great stuff going on in their lives, we try to be what we think we need to be to attract that person. But when we're coming from what we need, we do something very different, because what we need is to feel loved and accepted. And you can only feel loved and accepted if you show who you really are. So in order to follow what we need, we actually need to show people our real life. So in summary so far, when someone breaks up with us because they learned something about us and they decided that wasn't for them, that's crucial data that they're the wrong person for us. And if we want that data 6 months in, not 3 years in, then we need to start exposing more of our real life to someone earlier in the process. Okay, but what if you revealed more about yourself and as a result, it ended the relationship, or so you think, and you're still blaming yourself for that? You're saying, I got the data and I'm heartbroken. I hate the data. Well, firstly, let me say, if you felt safe enough to reveal more about yourself, to show more of your life to somebody, that is a beautiful thing. There's something lovely about that. And you should celebrate that moment in yourself, that I felt safe enough, I felt relaxed enough in that moment to really be myself, or to invite someone into my world. That it backfired in this instance doesn't change the fact that that's a very beautiful thing. But the other thing I want to say about this leads on to point number 3, which is that when we diagnose this moment where we caused the breakup as being the reason why we broke up, we are often not viewing the relationship in a large enough context. Imagine that if they were ever going to have a problem with that part of your life or that part of your personality or just you being you, that was always the case since day one. You might be finding out about it now, but that was always the case. It may even be that along the way, they felt this on some level before, but they never communicated it to you. I've dealt with that with many, many people that I've coached through breakups who on the day of the breakup are like, I just discovered this thing that, they said they can't do. They can't do it. They met my kids and they hung out or whatever. And all of a sudden they're like, I can't do this. It's too much. But that may not be the first time they've been feeling that. They may have felt it before. And in many of these cases, they're just not communicating that they felt that before. So often what we blame on ourselves at the time of breakup, we could just as easily blame, perhaps even more so, on their inability to communicate those feelings that they were having way earlier in the process. So the result, by the way, is that it feels at the time of breakup like we're just learning this information that they can't handle us or our life. And they're not even really giving us a say in the matter. They're just saying, I can't do this. And then they leave. And we're like, but I didn't even get a chance to do anything about that. I didn't get a chance to improve on it. I didn't get a chance to show up differently or to alleviate your concerns. And that can feel it can feel like a really awful lack of closure. I could have supported this person differently through this if I'd have known, but they didn't even give me the benefit of knowing. They didn't give me the benefit of supporting them. So how do you view the breakup in a wider context than the moment it seemed to occur in? You ask yourself, what am I blaming on myself that is really about someone else's inability to communicate their fears or their concerns at an earlier stage? A stage where maybe I could have been a genuine teammate in helping alleviate those fears and concerns. And the second is to stop seeing it like we were wrong for that person on the day that they broke up with us because of something we did, but that they have been wrong for us all along. We're just learning about it now. Hey guys, I'm interrupting my own video. How annoying, except what I'm interrupting it with is really, really good for you. If you have a question for me that you want to ask me right now, go to askmh.com and you can either speak your question to me and hear me answering your question in my voice with my content, or text the question and get a text response. It is called Matthew AI. It is brand new. It is revolutionary and it is blowing people's minds. So go check it out. Askmh.com is the link. Go ask your exact question right now instead of waiting for me to make a video about your specific situation, which might not happen for another 7 years. All right, back to the video. Now, the fourth thing I want to say is a little bit more of an idea for you to play with for the future as opposed to something to do right now. We may be asking at this stage, well, what can I do about it if someone isn't communicating with me along the way? How do I account for the fact that someone might never speak about the things that they have a problem with or are not sure about, and then on the day that they break up with me is the first time I'm hearing about it? Well, we can't take responsibility for other people's inability to voice their fears or to express unmet needs that they have along the way. But what we can do is we can encourage conversation from our side about things that they may be living with as fears and anxieties about the relationship in their head. That might look like saying to someone, I've worked with many, many single parents. It might be saying to someone, hey, look, I know that I am not someone who comes on my own. I come as a package deal with a big life already. And I want to just say that if you ever want to talk about that, if you ever have, thoughts, or, you find it a bit overwhelming, or, you just want to express something that's on your mind in relation to that, please know that you always can. You're not going to upset me. I have broad shoulders about it. I would rather we just talk about it if any part of you has that on your mind. And, as much as I come with a life, I also respect that you come with a life, and I want you to be happy, and I want you to be, able to get your needs met always. And, I want to be a teammate to you in that, but I can't be if, you keep it in, and vice versa. You can't be a great teammate to me if I keep things in. So just please know that you can always talk to me about that stuff. And sometimes you can be more direct about things. You can ask people along the way, is there anything about our relationship that you'd like to change? Or is there anything that you feel you want more of? Is there any need that you feel like you don't get met enough in our relationship? That allows someone to come in and say, well, in truth, I'm a bit worried that I'm not getting enough time with my friends, or, I am trying to work on this big project right now, and I feel like I'm letting things slip because we're spending so much time together. Whatever it may be, it allows someone to voice that, and that allows you to come in and say, you know what, I respect that, and I really appreciate you telling me. I really want to support you in that. So let's figure that out. Let's make sure you get enough time for that. It allows you to be a teammate with someone, and that allows someone else to see you as a very, very rare bird because they're like, no one's ever given me the space to say these things before. I've always felt like I'm just going to be hurting someone's feelings, or, it's going to turn into an argument. But this person's actually made space for this, and I voiced these needs, and they're now supportive of them, and they're trying to help me meet those needs. So while you can't turn someone else into a good communicator, and that's not your responsibility, you can encourage the kind of conversations that allow you to ward off certain issues before they turn into these demons inside someone's head that in some cases make them end things because they've made them too big in their mind. And the result is them just saying, I just have to go. It's like the person who has the fear or the challenge in their head sees the other person in the relationship as the opposition. Like, I have this challenge and you're the cause of this challenge. And the only way to eliminate that challenge is to lose you. But instead, we want to create a team with someone where it's us and them against the challenge, whatever the challenge may be. The challenge might be, I can't get enough time with my kids. The challenge might be, we're spending too much time with your kids. The challenge might be, I'm not getting enough time on a project. The challenge might be that, I'm not getting enough intimacy in this relationship. But if two people can look at the challenge together and say, if we can talk about it, and be a team in solving it, then the two of us are looking at the challenge, problem solving together, instead of me seeing you and the challenge as being the same thing. And encouraging conversation in the way that I've been saying is exactly how to do this. And the fifth and final thing I want to say is that we often see our situation as the obstacle to us finding love. But your situation is not the obstacle. It is your filter. It's not going to prevent you from finding the right person. It's actually going to be the thing that leads you to the right person. It's going to reveal the right person. Because the right person, the person you need, the one that's going to love and accept you, is going to see your life, and they are going to be the one that opts in for that life. If your life and where you are today is something that pushes someone away, then that person is not right for where you are today. We have to lose the insecurity about our lives and start seeing that our life and living it more authentically with someone is actually going to be the thing that reveals who the right person is. And remember, the person who saw more of you when you started to feel safe and let your guard down and let them into your world and left has given you the data to show they are the wrong person for you. The right person for you is still coming. And when you feel the kind of love and acceptance of being who you are and feeling someone decide that they want that, that will blow that situation out of the water, and you'll be able to look back on it with a smile and maybe even a laugh at the idea that that thing, that person, was the real love you were looking for. Thank you so much for watching the video as always. If you're finishing this video with more questions, which is often the case, you may be thinking of a very specific scenario that you're in right now that you really feel like you want me to weigh in on. I have a way that you can do that right now, literally, where you can get my answer in the next 60 seconds. Go over to askmh.com because we have a brand new tool called Matthew AI where you can speak your question and you can take as long as you want and give as many details and as much context as you want, and you will hear my voice answering your question. It is extraordinary how sophisticated this is. It's trained on 17 years of my content. So you're not just getting any answer, you're getting my answer to your specific challenge. If you're in pain, especially right now, I promise you that by the end of your conversation with Matthew AI, you are going to feel a lot better than you do right now. So go to askmh.com and you can try it out. You can try it out for free, by the way. So there's no cost just to trying it. And let me know how you get on. I'll see you in the next video. Be well and love life.
What is a date? A date is a trailer for the movie that is you.
In a world of cliché, unhelpful dating advice, one man's accent is British or Australian or something hot. And what he says is actually pretty good too, and practical. Just keep watching to find out.
Now in this video, I'm going to give you a few things that you can say that put forward the best trailer for your movie. And for those of you that think, I don't want a predetermined thing to say, that's not me, I just want to go out there and be spontaneous, you can absolutely do that. But I challenge you to think of someone who dances. Yes, you can go and dance and not think about what you're doing, but the best dancers freestyle by putting together moves they've already mastered. Yes, they're putting them together in a different order each time. Yes, they're free-flowing, but they already know the moves. So this video is just giving you a few moves. You put them together however you want. Number one, I love the movie La La Land. No, it doesn't have to be the movie La La Land. It could be any movie or any book for that matter. The point is, when you express certainty about loving or liking something, it's much more attractive, and studies have proved this, than using language like kind of and sort of. That kind of uncertainty doesn't make us attractive. And by the way, when you do put forward a strong opinion about something, be prepared to have fun defending it. The dialectic is one of the best parts of interacting with other human beings. When someone can feel that there's a little fun tension between you, disagreeing and agreeing about things, that creates dynamic conversation. And also, I do actually really like the movie La La Land. Didn't know it was a musical, Jameson, until I went in there. Heard them singing, thought, what an absolute dream. Not just gozzo. Number two, I bet you'd be fun to do whatever with. If a guy shows you that he's got a certain quality, let's say he loves music, you could say to him, I bet you'd be fun to go to a concert with. In doing so, you both recognize a great quality about him, in this case, that he's a music lover, that he seems like he's passionate about that subject, but you also plant the idea of a future date in his head. It's the same way that if you discovered a guy was an avid learner, he just went on a cultural trip somewhere and he comes back telling you all of these amazing tales and facts about the place he went, you could say, I bet you'd be a lot of fun to go to a museum with. First, it compliments him on the quality of being educated, of being a learner. Second, what's going through his mind right now? I'd like to see her again. I wonder if we went on a date, what we would do. I guess we could go to a museum. A date within a date. Number three, let's get one. I remember being at the cinema, movie theater to you Americans. And I said, that popcorn smells amazing. And she said, yeah. And then that was it. And I was like, do you want anything? And she was like, nah. And then we went to the movie. And secretly, I wanted her to be like, let's get one. If you were on the pier, Santa Monica Pier, Jameson, they write your name on a little grain of rice. It takes a couple of minutes. It's easy. It's cheap. If he was like, oh, look, they're writing names on rice. And you're like, let's get one. This is really a point about saying yes to the little things on a date, even before he does, because you might find that he's being a bit too cool and manly to say something, but secretly, he really wants you, the feminine, free, beautiful energy, to say, let's get one. Number 4, I like the idea of a relationship, but it has to be the right one. Now, on a date, very often, relationships come up. Why am I not in one? Do I really want one? Is that what I'm looking for right now? And this conversation is fraught with a kind of intensity that scares people. So we end up giving either passive answers like, oh, I don't know, I'm just playing it easy and cool and casual and blah, 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 lie, lie, lie. Or we go down the other route and we're like, I will settle for nothing but a relationship right now. And if you even try to be casual, mate, it's going to end badly for you. And that scares people. So we've got to try and find a middle ground where we state that yes, a relationship is something we're interested in, but you have a high standard for who you're in a relationship with. Number 5, this has been fun, but next time could you please not wear that shirt because it gives you an unfair advantage. Yes. Now he wants to wear that shirt every day for the rest of his life. Could you please not wear that shirt? He's like, is this an insult? I don't know where this is going. Immediately, just your brain is mine for the next few seconds. You're going to listen to what I'm going to say. It gives you an unfair advantage. Who's going to forget that compliment? I would remember that. That shirt, when I went into my wardrobe, that shirt would stand out to me. It would glow. It would have a halo around it. So there you have it. 5 super secret Jedi ninja moves to use on a first date to get more attraction, more magnetism with the guy you like. And by the way, you might be watching this video right now thinking, I'm not even getting enough dates or any dates with the people I actually want to be on dates with. Then I want you to do something. Take an extra step today. I have a program called Attract Any Man. This program will get you excited about your love life again. It will get things up and running so that you're dating great guys. It will show you how to get out there, how to start taking risks and qualified risks. So not going out there just to get rejected or anything like that, but it will show you great feminine ways of taking risks so that you can meet new and interesting and quality men to date. It's a program that I love. I want you to experience it. Don't just be a passive spectator. Be someone who's actually in the game. Take an extra step right now. I'll link it up here. Go for it. Let me know what you think. And as always, I will see you in next Sunday's video. It would have a halo around it every time I went into my wardrobe. You don't say wardrobe, do you? You say closet in America. Wardrobes.
We say cinema and we say wardrobe. Stop attacking us.
Jameson always yelling like an American. Every single one of us wants to make an impact when we're on a date. So here are 5 simple things that you can do to stay in his mind long after you've said goodnight. Number 1, give him an early compliment. I know so many guys, and I've been in this position before too, where you get to the end of a date and you don't even necessarily know if someone's actually attracted to you. And that's because you go on a date and 2 people are playing this poker game where neither one of them wants to reveal their hand. We want to break that nonsense. It's not like you have to start over-investing on a date, but we should show someone that we're attracted. So early on in the date, tell him you like his shirt or something you were attracted to in his profile picture when you saw him on the app. Give him something that shows that you are attracted, because that way it opens up the date to more possibilities. It makes everyone feel more comfortable. It makes it more likely he'll show his interest in you. And at the end of the date, he will not be questioning whether there's a spark. Number 2, be friendly to the people around you. When a guy on a date sees you being nice to people that you don't need to be nice to, it shows your true character. So whether it's being nice to the person serving you, or whether there's a woman next to you at the bar who has to shuffle over so that you two can sit down, and you say to her, "I love your jacket, by the way," or "You have great style," it shows him your warm nature. It also has the added bonus that when you interact with someone else for a few seconds, he gets to observe you without the pressure of interacting with you. And it's in the moment where we get to observe someone that we start to really build attraction, because we're not in our heads thinking of things to say. We just get to fully take them in. Number 3, don't be afraid of the date interlude. Now look, it's nice when a guy has a plan for a date and you don't necessarily want to disrupt the plans that he's got, but if you happen to be doing something where nearby is something you want to do, don't be afraid to say it. It can be playful, it can be fun, it can actually show confidence for you to state something that you're interested in doing. It could be a walk in the daytime where all of a sudden you realize that you're really near to a coffee shop you love and you say, "Okay, wait, we have to get coffee here. This place does amazing coffee." The great thing for him is that this is a pressure valve. Not only does he realize he's not solely responsible for creating a great time together, it also removes some of the guesswork of figuring out what you'd like to do. Number 4, order the chocolate cake. I always think of that moment at dinner where the dessert menu comes up and everyone's really polite and is like, "Do you want dessert? Should we get dessert?" I love when someone's just like, "We should share the chocolate cake, shouldn't we?" Because in that moment, you know what to do. So in whatever form it takes on your date, say yes to the metaphorical chocolate cake. It will give him permission to let go and have fun too. Number 5, defer the nightcap. Now, I know the temptation when a date is going well is to drag it out as long as possible because you're enjoying being with that person. But that's not always productive. Think of the best concert you've ever been to. It probably didn't end at 2 a.m. when you were getting tired. It ended on a high, and we want our dates to do the same. So when someone says to you after you've already had a great time, "Hey, you want to get like one more drink over here?" Don't be afraid to be like, "You know what? It's 11 o'clock, it's getting a little late. I'm going to get to bed, but we should do something tomorrow or sometime this week." What I like about deferring the nightcap is it almost gives you a license to see the person sooner. I'd rather cut this date a little short on a first date and see them tomorrow than have a really long protracted date now and not see someone or feel like I'm not entitled to ask them to see them for 5 more days. So there it is, 5 things you can do to be memorable on a first date. Now, if you want to take this up a notch and not just have 5 things you can do to be memorable, but have 5 things you can say to a guy to be memorable on a first date, I have a free guide for you that gives you exactly that. 5 exact phrases that you can say to a guy that keep you in his mind long after the night is over. All you need to do to get it is go to saythistohim.com. It's completely free and you can be reading them right now. I will see you there. I know what you're thinking. Who am I dressed as this year? Blue Hefner. And no, that's not a last-minute outfit that we came up with because Jameson pointed at the bathrobe and said you could be Hugh Hefner in this video, and I noticed that it was blue and said Blue Hefner in an effort to be clever. That's not what we did at all. It's not like it's even an original pun anyway, Jameson. I mean, it's not like I'm the only one who Blue Hefner. Oh. We're here to talk about the 4 flirty treats that you can give to your man this Halloween. We're sort of going to order them in terms of, you know, whether you're just dating someone or whether you've been in a relationship with someone, because some of them are a bit saucy. Number 1, send him a picture of yourself before you go out. And no, I don't mean some lewd, naked picture. I mean when you get dressed up in your nice outfit to go out to that party, whether it's a Wonder Woman outfit or just a sexy ketchup bottle, because, you know, who says you have to be cliche? You could go as whatever you want. You're free to do whatever you want. Send him that picture, and then he's going to look at his phone and he's going to go, "Oh my God, she's going to be out all night looking this hot." And he's thinking of you and what you're doing. Remember, you don't have to be with a guy to be on his mind. Number 2, present him with 2 tickets to a haunted house. When you and him go into a situation where you're both going to be scared, he gets to play the protector by guarding you and looking after you, and you get to do your favorite Scooby-Doo impression and jump into Shaggy's arms. What's more, studies have shown that moments of heightened adrenaline actually connect two people. So in conclusion, running away from a chainsaw-wielding clown might just be one of the most romantic moments you've ever had. Number 3, send him his favorite candy. Think about it. How sweet and adorable is it that you know a candy that he really likes and you've decided to send it to him in a neat little box with a package, or you can give it to him in person. Either is fine, but just that moment where he's like, it didn't cost you much, it wasn't even that much effort, but the fact that you know him just a little bit is a really gorgeous moment. Number 4, send him a movie trailer text. This is where you send him the link to a scary movie trailer with the message, I'm only watching this if you're there to protect me. I don't care how brave you are normally. Showing that you want your man to wrap his arms around you and protect you during the scary parts is something that will make him melt. Number 5. I'm going to need a drink for this one. It's a little risque. Have a private outfit picked out, especially for him. Let me make myself clear. I'm not saying this for the guy you met last week, but for the guy that you actually are seeing, the guy that's worth it, the guy that deserves it. You know all of the normal caveats. I want you to pick an outfit that is super sexy. You can make this as saucy as you like. Put it in the bathroom at home, and when the two of you get back, change out of your Catwoman outfit or whatever it is you're in, and take 5 minutes to change into your private outfit. When you emerge from the bathroom, he'll realize that there was one outfit, one part of Halloween, that was reserved just for him. And there you have it. 5 flirty treats that will make him melt. Speaking of which, Jameson, I need more ice. Now, please.
By yourself in this room.
Alright, one more. Okay, let's just get down to business. 5 ways to make him want to kiss you. Number 1, touch him. No, I don't mean his groinal region. I just mean touch him somewhere, even innocently on the arm. That actually looks good, what that guy has over there. Because on a date, when two people haven't even touched, made physical contact for the entire date, and then all of a sudden, one of them has got to think about leaning in and kissing the other one, that feels like going from 0 to 60 miles an hour. But if you've been introducing light and carefree touch throughout the date, kissing is a much more natural progression. Number 2, take a sip. When you take a sip of your drink, it engages your lips, so it draws attention to them. But at the same time, if you look away, it has the added benefit of giving him a moment to look at you and take you in without you staring right back at him. That is too funny, monkey. That is something that we actually don't get to do that frequently on a date. And when someone is looking at us, that's when they get a chance to really get attracted. Number 3, glance at his lips. Now, the more slowly you do this, the more seductive it's going to be. But if you take a moment to look into his eyes, and then look down at his lips, and then back up at his eyes, that moment becomes a very seductive moment, even if it's unconscious, even if he doesn't know that you're actually looking at his lips. He registers that you're taking him in a different way. So like, what part of the jungle were you in when that happened? Number 4, when he looks at you in a certain sexy way, maybe he smiles with it, I want you to say to him, you can't look at me like that. The words "you can't" followed by looking away creates this real tension in the moment. You're telling him something he can't do, always very sexy when done playfully. And in that moment, when you look away, there's that vulnerability to it too. It's like he's doing something to you that he shouldn't be. Monkey, you
Can't look at me like that.
Number 5, do the cute act. Choose a moment when he's teasing you to give him a serious face when he thinks you should be laughing and say, "Don't be mean to me. Don't be mean to me." And when someone's being cute and adorable, you just want to grab them and kiss them. That's the effect we're going for. Look, these 5 things I've just given you are essentially just practical ways to flirt. I have a program called How to Talk to Men, and one of the chapters in that program is specifically about giving you lines and things you can do to flirt. Well, I am gifting you that chapter absolutely free today. All you need to do to get that is go to getthefreechapter.com. I'll link it up here. Click that link, download the free chapter, and you can be using these techniques today. In this video, I want to give you 5 mindsets for a successful love life starting today. And the nice thing about the mindsets I'm going to give you today is that they can apply to progress in any area of your life. So whether you watch this channel because you come to me for advice in your love life, or whether you're here just because you like the ways of thinking in general that you get on this channel, you're going to be able to apply this to anything you want to achieve this year. Before I go any further in this video, I want to tell everyone, I want to announce to you that at the beginning of this new year, we have just released our early bird tickets for the virtual retreat. They are available until the end of the month. The virtual retreat is coming up this June, and this is the best time to be a part of it because we have some special early bird bonuses, and the early bird ticket means you get $200 off the actual price of the event. So go grab it now. What better way to kick off your year than to guarantee your progress with the virtual retreat? Go to mhvirtualretreat.com to grab your early bird ticket now. Onto the video. This video was born out of a recent feeling of overwhelm I had where I had just finished my virtual retreat. And my virtual retreat is a 3-day immersive event where by the end of it, I've been on stage for many hours a day over 3 days, and I am cooked. I set myself a new kind of rule last year that at the end of a retreat, I would take time off. And I did that because too many retreats in a row, I was going straight back into work. And then I was feeling truly burnt out, truly overwhelmed, and kind of resentful afterwards because I hadn't had any time for me. Well, this retreat was a bit of a perfect storm of things that created overwhelm. Because at the time the retreat finished, I had family in town. It happened to be one of my family members' birthdays. And so there were a whole bunch of social events right after the retreat, which meant I rolled from 3 days of really intense work that was on the back of weeks of intense work straight into these social events. And then when my family went home, Audrey's family came into town and we had the same thing again. Now, all of this was both beautiful and overwhelming because in my mind, I was thinking, there's so many things I need to get to. I'm not getting enough of that done right now. I haven't got time for that right now. And there was a lot of framing of all of it in my mind that led me to the edge of overwhelm. And we know when we get to overwhelm, we start to breathe differently. We get panicked, we get desperate. In fact, when I say we breathe differently, when we're overwhelmed, we tend to hold our breath. And we hold our breath because we are waiting for this time where we're going to be able to catch our breath. And we tell ourselves, okay, it's okay. When I get to that point, and a lot of us do it just in every week, right? We say, I just need to get to Friday because then when it gets to the weekend, I'll have time to breathe again. We tell ourselves that I just need some breathing space. And you may have your own version of overwhelm right now. I'm a single mom. I don't have time. I have a busy job. I don't have the energy to be on these apps or to be texting people or to be kind of going on dates that don't go anywhere. It's all just too much. And they very quickly get themselves to a place of overwhelm where they say,
I'll just return to my love life when I get some breathing space. So they do the same thing. I'll defer it until a time where the conditions feel better for it. And the problem with overwhelm is that it short circuits progress. When we're overwhelmed, we just stop in a certain area. We'll decide, well, there's so much going on right now, I just can't go to the gym. Oh, there's so much going on with family that I don't have time to date. I have so much stress in my life right now, I don't want to eat well at all. We have this overwhelm that leads to complete stalling in certain areas of our lives. What I want to do is address this in the context of this year now, because we're beginning a new year. It's a funny thing, New Year's is like a false idea of a reset. Because there's that feeling, isn't there? There's that psychological effect of a new year that says to us, this is a time when I get to just start again. And it feels almost like an Etch-a-Sketch board. You know those things where you draw something on the board and then if you shake it, it just all disappears and you get that blank slate again. It can feel like a new year is going to give us that. But it's always a bit of a false promise, isn't it? Because once the year actually starts, we realize that all of our problems, all of the traits that we have, the habits, the things we want to change, the finances from last year, the relationship issues from last year, the work issues from last year, all of those things are still present. They come with us into January 1st. I want to give you 5 specific ways to think about all of this differently. And you be the judge. You tell me if by the end of this video, it's given you a sense of relief and a sense of empowerment going into your year, but in a very realistic way. Number 1, life has to be lived in the middle. When I was overwhelmed, one of the things I did was remind myself that life is sort of always like this. There can be phases of our life where we're justifiably overwhelmed because there's lots of different things coming at us at the same time. And that was part of what I was feeling. But I also am careful to remind myself that there's almost never a time in my life where that's not true to some extent. There's a phrase Dante used, nel mezzo, in the middle. Life has to be lived in the middle of all of these responsibilities and priorities. So if you know that there is something that you are putting off because you're waiting for a time when all of a sudden you're going to find a perfect equilibrium, you're going to have that balance in your life, there's going to be a giant space in the calendar that's going to open up, I want you to catch yourself, because there is a very strong chance that has just become a form of procrastination, because that time will never present itself to you in the perfect way that you've convinced yourself it might. And even if it does ever appear like that, it will be short-lived. The idea of the perfect time, the idea of the perfect amount of breathing space is itself a fiction. And once we accept that, we all of a sudden start asking ourselves a different question. Not, when is everything going to open up so that I can do some of these things I want to do? But instead, how do I crowbar some of these things that I want to do into my life now, in the middle of all of these things that I have to do, and I'll probably have to do in some form 6 months from now as well. There are undeniably some bad times to go out and try to date, where you're at the peak of grief at the end of a relationship, when you are dealing with some intense recent trauma that you're trying to work through. There are times that are bad, but at a certain point, we will also have to recognize that we're never going to be at a point where we feel like everything in our own personal growth journey has been achieved, that we've done every bit of healing we could possibly do. There are always going to be ways that someone could show up in our life at a time where we don't feel 100% ready, and we will begin a relationship. in the middle. Number 2, stop waiting for space to breathe and instead change the way you breathe. When I first started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, early on, you start to roll. Rolling is like the jiu-jitsu version of what sparring is to boxing. It's when you're actually fighting someone. And that's a time where you start to get nervous, your adrenaline gets up, you start to breathe very heavy when you're inexperienced. And I remember the first time I did this, I was rolling with someone, and within 2 minutes, I felt like I was drowning. I felt like I couldn't catch my breath. I felt like I didn't know how I would go on at all. After the session, I remember my coach saying to me, sometimes what I'll do with some of the other black belts when we're doing training for competitions is we'll go to the extreme and we'll set ourselves a timer for an hour for us just to be rolling constantly for that hour. And I remember thinking to myself, I could not get past the first 2 minutes today without feeling like I was drowning. How on earth could someone do this for an hour? And I asked him that question, and he said to me, when you look up at the clock after 5 minutes and you realize that with someone on top of you and someone you're fighting, you've got another 55 minutes, you actually start to come to a different conclusion. You say, well, I've got 55 minutes left of this, so I may as well just settle in for the ride. And when you do that, you start breathing differently because you can't hold your breath for an hour. You can hold your breath for 2 minutes, but you can't hold it for an hour. And when you know you're going to be going that long, you don't hold your breath anymore. You start breathing differently. So think about that in the context of your life. Again, this is what I did when I was in that place of overwhelm. I said, there's always going to be something. I'm going to go home for the holidays and there's going to be a whole bunch of other new things that I have to do and people I want to see and things I need to tie up before the end of the year. I had that feeling. And that made me realize, oh my God, it's not about to end. And if it's not about to end, then instead of waiting for space to breathe, I need to start breathing differently. Settle in, because this is a life. What you have is a life. Everything going on in it right now is just part of your life today. A year from now, there will be other things going on, but that's a life. The understanding that all these things, all this juggling probably isn't going anywhere. Yes, we can improve on it, and yes, we can simplify our life, and we should do all of those things. But in the meantime, instead of delaying progress on things that are important to us, we can instead decide to simply be an active participant in our life as it is right now, and to find time for the things that are important, even if imperfectly. Number 3, lose the fiction of the fresh start. I feel like we almost all have this element of us that likes neat and tidy lines. We like to demarcate. This is what this chapter was about, and now this is what this chapter was about, and now I'm doing this. And I always think back to being at school. You remember the first day of term in a brand new school year? There's always something, to me at least, exhilarating. I don't know if you had the same feeling, but for me, there was something exhilarating about the idea of that really fresh start. I would always remember going to Staples and buying new stationery, new pencil case, new pens, new pencils, erasers, and I would have these things that I would neatly put in my pencil case, and I'd have a brand new notebook for lessons and new teachers, new lessons, and I'd tell myself, this time I'm going to do everything perfectly. I'm going to make perfect notes when the teacher says things. I'm going to do my homework in perfect, neat ways. I'm going to keep up with all of the lessons. And I'd have all of these intentions. Within a week, the mess had started again. My notepads already had stuff crossed out where I'd got it wrong. I missed a day of homework. I already felt a bit behind on something. My friend Tom has already sullied my pencil case by drawing a penis on the front of it. And it was like that perfect, pure feeling that I was trying to keep hold of would always elude me, because it was always a false promise. Much like the new year, the idea of the new year, new you, fresh start is a false promise. Because we don't get these perfect beginnings and endings. What we get is just life on a continuum. I think one of the reasons we get so deflated in the new year, we get this rush of new start, new year, new me. And then we get so deflated because we realize that it's a lie. Our problems, our grievances from last year, our financial difficulties, our issues in our relationships, the things that give us anxiety, it all just comes with us into January 1st, and it starts polluting and graffitiing all over that notebook and pencil case before we've even got to start. I want us to lose that illusion of the fresh start and instead realize that all life just operates on that continuum. That there is always just a sense of everything blends into each other, and we don't really get the clean lines. Life is messy. And instead of looking for a blank canvas on which to paint, we have to look at it like it's this ongoing mural that we are adding to all the time with every brush stroke. I think of that in my business sometimes. There's things that I go, oh, I really want to update that. I really want to change that. And there's this fantasy world I have where I just start everything again and just build it perfectly from the ground up. And then I realize, that's nonsense. Life isn't like that. By the way, even if I did do that, I wouldn't build it perfectly from the ground up again. And then 3 years from that point, I'd be wondering, oh, how do I do it perfectly the next time? And secondly, that's not the game. The game is to keep updating and changing things and making it better by increments. That's how life is. We make it better by increments. We make imperfect progress. Number 4, don't over-exaggerate how much of your time this area that you want to make progress in needs. I'm writing a book at the moment, and I know that in my fantasy world, I just have a year of doing nothing else but writing this book. I remember saying that to my writing coach and him saying to me, Matthew, even if you had all the time in your week to do nothing but the book, even solid every day, don't do anything else writers only have a handful of hours in them a day. Some people 1 or 2. What are you going to do with the rest of that time? You can't write all day, every day. It doesn't work like that. And I always remind myself of that when I'm wishing that I had the perfect amount of time to do it. I couldn't fill all of my time with it. The same is true of getting fit and healthy. You can't spend all of your time at the gym. It takes 1 hour a day, right? The same is true of your love life. You say, I don't have time for, a love life right now. And I want to say, but what does that mean? If no one is asking you for a relationship right now, then it's not going to take all of your time. Right now, your job is not to worry about how much time a relationship would take up, which, by the way, from 15 years of doing this, never once have I ever encountered someone who met the most amazing person for a relationship, someone they had massive chemistry with, were head over heels for, could like immediately felt this feeling of, oh, this is what I've been looking for in my life, and then said, all of this is wonderful, but you know what? I just don't have the time. It never happens like that. Time is always an excuse that people use before they've met someone that they love. When they find out they love someone, when they have those feelings, they are making time everywhere that time could possibly exist. But in the beginning, all we need is time to flirt. That takes seconds. All we need is time to meet some people. All we need is time to go on a date. And that doesn't have to be your whole week. It can be a couple of hours a week. When we're overwhelming ourselves with this area of our life that we want to make progress in, even if you had all the time in the world for it, that area wouldn't need all the time in the world for you to start making progress. Start small, crowbar it in small ways. And then when it starts to become a bigger part of your life, you can evaluate what you might need to let go of in your life to give that thing more time. But don't create a problem there before you have one, because if you do, I will suspect that the problem isn't time at all. Your fear of doing that thing, your fear of going out there and meeting people and getting rejected is being masked by an excuse like, I just don't have time. The 5th and final mindset I want to give you for progress this year is to be patient, because the trajectory of your progress is what matters. When we're talking about incremental progress, when we're talking about just doing the thing you can do and not using the idea that it's not the right moment in my life as an excuse to do nothing, those small actions that you take actually add up over time. And I always remind myself of this. There's a phrase that I use over and over and over again for myself, which is every little bit of effort counts. Every little bit of effort counts, no matter how small. If I go for a walk today, that counted. It may not have been a 5-mile run, but it counted. It wasn't nothing. It added to the scoreboard. If I write 50 words today instead of 0 words, 50 words may seem like nothing in the context of a book that is going to be 80,000 words, but it counted. Those 50 words, they count. It all counts. And when we think that it all counts, we get out of this all or nothing mindset. We get into just do whatever is the version I can do right now. Let me just do that version. I'll recognize that it's imperfect. I'll recognize that on my best day, I would be doing better. On that hypothetical best day with a clear schedule and a clear mind and feeling my best, I would do better. By the way, what a ridiculous concept, the idea of that hypothetical day when we're firing on all cylinders. There's a hypothetical day where I do this video twice as good as I've done it right now. But what am I going to wait for that hypothetical day where my mind is just so sharp that every point I make is perfect and everything follows the perfect linear progression and I don't get a word out of place and I don't elaborate for too long on anything? Am I going to sit here and wait for that day? Or am I just going to say, today's Matthew is going to do his best in this video, and that's the video I'm going to do? If the hypothetical day comes around where I do a better video, great. I look forward to seeing it. But this is the version of me today, and that guy is gonna make a video for you guys. The trajectory is what matters. What's the trajectory I'm on over time? And one of the things I think we have to do, while I agree that it's good advice to sort of sometimes increase our sense of urgency in life, and I think in a way we've already done that in this video because we've talked about the idea that you should look at life as something that needs to be lived now and not wait for the future, right? There's your sense of urgency. But where I think you can be patient is with the results. If you're taking some form of action today, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, even if it's just the best version of it you can do right now, which isn't even that great, the cumulative effect of those things over time creates a different trajectory than the one you're on. That's one of the things I've been enjoying doing in my life recently, to speak personally. I used to be like always in a rush to get there, always in a rush to go. I want to have it now. I want to have it this month. I want to have it this year. I was always in this mad rush to sort of get the result now. And I have actually taken a lot of comfort and joy and relief in just giving myself longer timelines for things. Not longer timelines before I take action, but longer timelines for worrying about what the result is. The real value is not on performing miracles today that are going to burn you out in the next 2 weeks. The real value is in creating a new trajectory. Having listened to these 5 things, there is no better time to take action than right now. Regardless of what else is going on in your life, take action in the middle, nel mezzo. And the most powerful way I have that you can do that is by joining us on the virtual retreat. Like I said to you at the beginning of this video, it's coming up in June. Until the end of January, there are early bird tickets available with special bonuses, $200 off the normal ticket price, and it's an amazing way to tell yourself that this year, no matter how busy we are or how much we have going on or how many responsibilities there are, I am spending the time to get where I want to be and to craft the life I want to have. So come join us by going to mhvirtualretreat.com and I will see you over there. Thank you for watching this video and welcome to the new year. Hey everyone, it's Matthew. I wanted to give you 5 things
that you need to think about or you need to know going into this holiday season. Now, the first of these is that this can be a truly magical time of year if you don't go into it comparing your life to a romantic image of the way that it's supposed to be, or the way that other people tell you it's supposed to be. See, if you go into this year thinking, well, I'm supposed to have a boyfriend, or I'm supposed to be all loved up, I'm supposed to be able to go into this love nest and enjoy the winter period with that special person, and you don't have that person, all that's going to do is depress you in what can be a really special time of year. If you live out your own version of this time of year, instead of the version that some advertiser or some friend or family member has put in your head, this can be such an incredible time. Part of how to do that, which brings me on to point 2, is how you frame it, what you decide to bring to this season. There was a interview I was watching recently with a bunch of actors who were in a film with Johnny Depp, and one of them was asked, what's it like to be around Johnny Depp? And they said, you have this feeling that no one in the world could be having as much fun as you are right now. What a beautiful way to be described, by the way. I'd like people to feel something like that, even a shred of that, around me. And it reframed what I want to bring to my interactions. And as we go into the holiday season, I think it's a really fun challenge to say to yourself, you know what, rather than comparing my life to some ideal, I'm really going to bring my energy in the best possible way to every interaction I'm in. Number 3 is to bring something unexpected to your important relationships. I think we get in a kind of relationship rut with certain key people in our lives. Sometimes we have family members where every time we see them, we stay on a very superficial level and we never go any deeper. Or we always are funny with them and tell jokes and make fun of each other, but we never get more serious and we never ask each other more sensitive questions or show a more sensitive side to ourselves. Other people we're always serious with, but we never joke around or tease or have fun with. I want you to bring something unexpected to your relationships, because it's when we show different sides of ourselves and we encourage them to show different sides of themselves that we actually bond more with key people in our lives. Number 4, and this is specifically love life related, family may come to you asking you why you haven't met anyone yet, or what's going on, or what's wrong. When family come to you doing this, I want you to understand that it's more of a projection of their stuff than it is yours. You know, families sometimes they worry about the wrong things. In their own minds, they have their image of what they think you should be doing. And it's not necessarily your path. I mean, how many times do parents, when we were young, tell us to go and get a job in a certain area that we know would have made us unhappy? My mum, God bless her, I love her to pieces, and she would only ever want the best for me. But I remember a time when I was starting out as an entrepreneur, and she said, can't you just go and be one of those bankers? Like, she said, those like guys, you know, they have good careers and there's, you know, those safe jobs. And by the way, they didn't turn out to be so safe. She wasn't saying I should get a nice secure job because she didn't care about me. That was just her way of caring about me, and it was her image, her vision of what she thought might be the best path for me. But sometimes family don't know best. And sometimes they don't understand our journey right now, or they don't understand that we have a process of growth to go through. So don't allow your family to disrupt your mindset. Don't allow them to put pressure on you in the wrong ways. Let them say their thing. Don't do battle with them. It's just a waste of energy. If you're already being proactive, then you can relax and be zen about that and be like, listen, you can say all you want, you can worry all you want. The fact is, I've got it handled. I've got it under control. Which leads me on to point number 5, by the way. If you want a way to get this under control, and you feel like there's a part of you that when your family speaks up and talks about your relationship status or where you are in your love life right now, if there's a part of you that feels that internal resentment, not towards them, but really it's towards yourself because you feel like you're not doing enough, then I have something for you. I created a guide called Kiss Him at Midnight, which is my 7 simple steps to finding a great guy in the holiday period, potentially even having someone to kiss at midnight on New Year's. So I wanted to make it kind of playful and fun. This is all tailored to the types of activities and the types of things that are going on during the holiday period. So it's very likely it will speak to exactly where you are right now. And if you're feeling kind of hopeless, or if you're feeling like you're scared because this is a time of year that reminds you that you don't have something you want, then fine. Really just be present with that feeling and think about what it is you want and resolve to do something about it. That way, when family speak up and they're putting you under pressure, you don't need to feel the pressure because you'll know that it's all under control. To go and get that guide, go to kisshimatmidnight.com. Follow those 7 simple steps. I've said before, the worst case scenario is that your social life improves and you take some risks and you meet some great guys. Best case scenario, you end up meeting an incredible guy that you spend the holiday season with and begin 2016 with. Go there now, kisshimatmidnight.com, and I'll see you on that page. Thank you guys.
Hi guys, I am here in the audition room in Los Angeles for 50 Shades of Earl Grey, which I presume you've already seen because we had to release this after the video so that we didn't give the game away on what we were making. I've never really done this before. The only way I've ever really interviewed or auditioned people before is for my company, for staff. I haven't done it in this respect before. But what's been so fascinating is watching people come into a room and have them really blow you away within a couple of minutes, and what affects that. And what I found was really interesting to me, because although the ability of these people mattered, we may call it talent, we may call it skill, whatever, although the ability mattered, what came even before they showed their talent was actually more important as we went through. So I'm going to give you some of the things I wrote down. The first was handshake. This is obvious, we've heard it 1,000 times, but I'm going to say it anyway because I noticed it. There were 3 great handshakes, and then the 4th person that came in gave me just an awful limp handshake. And immediately, just with the handshake, I thought, if there's no firm handshake, how is she really going to deliver in this role? Now the 2 aren't necessarily linked, but in my head they immediately became linked. So if you're still one of those people that gives shitty handshakes, don't do that anymore. The second thing I wrote down, energy. There was one particular person who came in and just had this weird energy that was off. She didn't seem like she liked us. She didn't seem like she was trying to even be likable. It's kind of a weird vibe, and I hadn't even seen this person perform yet. I hadn't seen them do their thing, and yet I immediately thought, this probably isn't our person. Now that's crazy because she could have been the best performer in the world, and yet immediately I thought, I don't really want to work with this person. I don't think it's the right person. Next, bad breath. Here's the thing, I don't want to be mean about this, but we have the technology these days to fix bad breath. Chewing gum, mints, brushing your teeth. Next, Jameson would ask the question in the audition, do you have any questions after the performance? And I can remember a number of occasions where I've been on this side of the table where I'm auditioning for something, or I'm trying to get this, I'm trying to do business with this person or whatever, and someone says, do you have any questions? And I can remember many occasions where I've said, no, I don't. I now realize how destructive saying no was, because being on the side of the table where I'm making the decisions and hearing someone say no in response to that question immediately made me think either they're not interested, they haven't really done their homework, they're doing 100 of these types of things this week, which is why we're not really that special to them. That didn't mean that they had to come back and say, oh yeah, I had this question about the script, or I had whatever. I didn't need them to have a question, but even just to answer with an opinion. I don't have any questions, but I just want to say whatever it is. It's really interesting what you've done here, or anything like that would have helped. But just saying no seemed to show a level of disinterest that made us predisposed to not want to work with them. Lastly, obvious, but did they show enthusiasm for the project? There was one person that came in and talked about the script, and she was saying, I just want to tell you guys that I was crying laughing with my friend when I read this script. I thought it was hilarious. You did such a great job of it. You always have to remember the person on the other side of the table probably has an ego, probably worked hard on whatever it is they're presenting to you, and that if you like it, you should speak up. So that's it. Simple things that most of us know, but the reason I wanted to tell you them is not because I think all of them will be new to you,
None of them are new to me either, but actually sitting on the side of the table where for once I was making the decisions with Jameson, it really made them resonate with me in a much bigger way, and it was fascinating to see just how important these little things really are. There are two skills in life. There's being good at something, and then there's being good at marketing yourself for something. And the things that I'm talking about here, they're not even relevant to being good at something. They're about marketing yourself. But the reality is, if you can't market yourself, you have to be twice as good at the thing you're doing to win people over. If you're great at marketing yourself, then actually you'll still win over more talented people, because people will want to be around you. They'll want to work with you. They'll want to date you. They'll want to be in your company. And that makes the whole thing much easier. It makes it easier for them to say yes. Make it easy for them to say yes. I will see you soon.
I'm not the barista for you. You should steer clear of me.
You keep saying that, Matthew. But you make amazing cappuccino macchiato. What are you hiding? Why won't you let me in?
I had a British start in life. My tastes are very singular. An American wouldn't understand.
Enlighten me then.
How mad is that? I mean, it's great. No, it's brilliant. It's just f***ing mad. Alright. Okay.
Me and Jameson are in Miami right now. The traffic outside is murder. We're waiting for it to die down a little bit, and then me and Jameson are going to hit the town. And who knows, we might just exchange numbers. Not with each other, because I already have Jameson's number, but maybe with some of the fine people here in Miami. Now, in last week's video, I talked about how to actually talk to someone in the first place and make sure you engage with more people. But I preempted the question that I knew would come, which is, okay, it's all very well talking to someone, but how do I actually exchange details with them once I'm talking to them? Otherwise, they're just another person who leaves my life as quickly as they came in, never to be seen or heard from again. So this video is going to be the 4 ways to exchange details with an attractive bloke. And if you're a guy, 4 ways to exchange details with a lovely, elegant lady. Number 1, the old classic napkin trick. It's not really a trick, is it though, Jameson? It's more of just a maneuver. You don't have to use a napkin, all right? We imagine the old-fashioned scenario of writing down your number on a napkin and giving it to someone. It doesn't have to be a napkin. Could just be a piece of paper, could be a receipt, could be a business card, dare I say it. You may never have spoken to this person before. You see them in a bar or in just any setting and you say, listen, you're really attractive and you seem like you have a great energy. I thought I'd give you my number and see if we got on over the phone. It's kind of ballsy. Nothing really bad can happen from it, because the worst that can happen is they don't call you. Some women would say the worst that could happen is they think that I'm over desperate or they think that I'm being overly sexual. You can always correct them later on when they do get in touch with you. But it's not a bad thing. A lot of guys are really thankful when a woman comes over and does that, because they didn't know how to go over to her in the first place, or maybe they didn't even notice her because she was over there and they didn't make eye contact. You're giving them something, but you're not asking for anything in return. So for any woman who's like, I don't want to seem desperate like I'm asking for his number, you're not. You're giving him yours. He has to actually make the next investment by contacting you. Number 2, the takeaway sale. Now, if you're having a conversation with a guy, you may be wondering, is it okay for me to ask for his number? As a woman, is that going to seem kind of needy? Am I going to seem like I'm too desperate to make something happen? Well, there's a way to do this where he feels like you're still high value in the situation. If you're the one, for example, who is saying to him, listen, I have to get back to my friends now. So you've been having a great conversation. Then you say, I really have to go. I have to get back to my friends. We're supposed to be on a girls' night right now, and I'm going to get in trouble for talking to you any longer. But listen, why don't we exchange numbers? And if we get on over the phone, we'll keep talking. There are a couple of things I like about this. Firstly, when you first said you had to go to be with your friends, he got that initial feeling in his gut of, I should do something now, or she's going to leave and I'm not going to get her details. You then make it really easy for him by saying, but before I go, why don't we exchange details? So now he gets the relief. You can exchange details, but you're the one who's leaving. So it's not like he's leaving and you're like, oh, before you go, let me get your number, right? Because that might seem kind of desperate. And I love that little line of, if we get on over the phone, we can keep talking. Because then it sets a little hoop for him to jump through, which is, hey, I kind of like you, but you haven't completely won yet. We still have to see if we get on over the phone before we see each other again. Number 3, the venue change, number exchange. When you're meeting a guy for the first time and you're like, hey, how's it going? Are you enjoying your night? Oh, really cool. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, so where are you guys headed after this? And they say, this place. You can say, me and my friends were thinking of headed there too, but we don't know what it's like tonight. I tell you what, when you get there, you should tell us how it is. Now he has the opportunity to say, oh, definitely. Well, give me your number and I'll text you when I get there. Simple, easy. All you have to do is ask them where they're going next, suggest that you were thinking of going there afterwards, and then say, you should let us know what it's like when you get there. Number 4, the we're all cool exchange. These are getting more mental as we go. I'm going to keep going. This is the we're all cool exchange. Now, what does that mean? I sometimes think that we put too much pressure on a number exchange as being like, I like you, you like me. Let's exchange numbers and see what happens. Maybe we'll be happy together. And then everyone gets awkward because they're like, oh, we're clearly exchanging numbers so that we can go on a date. Sometimes you want it to be a bit more casual than that. So you'll meet a guy for the first time, you're with your friends, he's with his friends. And you know what you say? You just say, hey, you guys all seem cool. We should all hang out sometime. Let's exchange details. Then it becomes about you and your friends all being cool, him and his friends all being cool, and you're just exchanging details as cool people. Let's all hang out sometime. Super casual. Now, the downside of this is that when you start texting the guy or calling him or he calls you, you have to flirt a little more to show that intention so that it doesn't just become about two groups of people and he doesn't even know that you like him. But in the beginning, when you need that kind of premise for exchanging details without looking too strong or coming on too strong, this is a nice casual way of doing it. Here's the thing. Ladies, I know that you don't want to be the one to make all of the moves. You want him to ask for your number and make that part easy. But the reality is, most guys are kind of awkward in that phase because they don't want to look like the only reason they talked to you in the first place was to get your number, or that they're asking someone they barely know for their number. They want to look cool. They want to look like they're normal people. They don't want to look creepy or desperate. So by kind of meeting them halfway, if it's by suggestiveness or by outright giving your number to someone, you're making their job a little bit easier. I'm not suggesting that you keep following that pattern of always doing that little bit of work for him, because the reality is when he actually starts communicating with you by phone or text, you want him to be making that investment. But you get to judge that at that point. You know, you get to see if he's actually making the investment, and you don't have to tolerate anyone long term who isn't making the investment. But in order to even see if it could go anywhere with someone, you do have to exchange details in the first place. And I'd hate to think that you're missing out on opportunities to talk to guys or to develop relationships because you didn't make it easy and he was too awkward or nervous or didn't quite know how to do it without seeming creepy. And as a result, two people who were great for each other both walked away and never saw each other again. That would be the biggest tragedy. By the way, guys, if you enjoyed this video, a lot of you have heard about this before because I released it recently, but I released a program called How to Talk to Men. And in it, I literally have 59 scripts that you can use to learn the exact things to say to men in different dating and relationship scenarios. So if you haven't got that yet, you can go to getthescripts.com and find out all about it. Otherwise, I will see you in next week's video. Take care, guys.
Don't you just hate it when you get a sty in your left eye right before you have to do a video and then travel around doing multiple very big speeches to lots of people? I do. But that's not what this video is about. We're going to be talking about how to be more attractive in the first 4 weeks of knowing someone. And we're going to give 4 different ways. Number 1, learn to move the story forward. One of the things that I get asked a lot is, how do I keep someone engaged when I'm messaging with them in early dating? Well, one of the ways that we lose people is by the communication becoming monotonous. We send the same kinds of text messages. Hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Not bad. What are you up to? Oh, I've just been working and stuff. What about you? And then it goes on and on like that. Texts stay the same length. We wait the same amount of time before we message someone back. It never really progresses beyond the superficial. And then someone loses interest because it just becomes white noise. Moving the story forward is about actually progressing things. And one of the ways we do that is by breaking the pattern in our communication. So let's say you've just been texting back and forth and it's been the same, the 3 different times that you've exchanged texts. Instead, send a picture, send a meme. It may sound like a small thing, but what it does is it interrupts that pattern of communication and takes you to a different beat. Or it might be sending a picture of what you're up to. If you say, I'm bowling with my friends, when someone says, what are you up to? Sending them a picture upgrades it. It brings them into your day. It allows them to actually see where you are and place you. You can even go a step further and send a voice note. We all know that experience when someone sends us a voice note and all of a sudden there's that feeling of, oh, it feels like they're in the room with me. It feels more intimate. We can hear their inflection. We hear that nervous little laugh in the middle of the sentence that's endearing. It makes them into a human being. And that's what we have to be in dating today. If you watched a TV show and nothing ever changed, it was the same every single time, there were no moments that surprised you, there were no moments that moved the story forward, you would stop watching that TV show. We keep watching a TV show because we don't know what's around the corner. And our communication in subtle ways has to do the same thing. Move the story forward. The second way we can increase how attractive we are in the first 4 weeks is by seeing dating as an exploration, not a commitment. If you haven't really heard that much from someone after a first date, or you have heard from them, but it still hasn't materialized into a second date, don't stop texting other people in your life. If someone else asks you on a date, don't feel like you have to say no because you happen to have a great time on that first date with this person. It shouldn't work like that. What this allows us to do is truly discern who is the right candidate for us, who is actually investing in us, who is proving not to just be someone we like or had a good time with, but someone where the ball is actually moving forward. There's progression. If we've just decided that because we had a great date, we're now going all in on this person, we've immediately lost our power. Someone can feel that we are waiting for the next time that they're going to ask us out. They feel it by the way we respond when they do ask us out. It's like we can't get on that date quickly enough because I really like you and I've been waiting for you to ask. There's a different energy when you're not waiting around for someone. There's a different energy when you're exploring your options. Dating is not a commitment. It is an exploration. Number 3, if we want to be more attractive in the first 4 weeks, we have to balance our romantic self with our rational self. Our romantic self wants to get carried away. And that's not surprising because we live in a culture that constantly celebrates stories of certainty. We love the story when we ask a friend who's been married 10 years, tell me about the beginning. And they're like, oh, well, I knew after date 1 that they were the person I was going to marry. And we think, oh, that's so lovely. That's what I want for myself. And then we go on a first date with someone and we feel really strongly about them. And we go home and we're like, this is the feeling. This is it. This is the intensity that I've been looking for. But this is the problem because now we go into this very high stakes mode of trying to impress someone, of trying to make it work, when we haven't even got to the point of knowing whether this relationship can work. Think of it like building a house. You're going to build your forever home and you find a place that feels like the perfect place to build it. But what you don't do at that point is start picking out furniture as if it's already built. You now have to lay the foundations for that home. You have to actually build a structure that has real structural integrity, lay the brickwork. This has to be done in stages. We can't jump to hanging pictures on the walls in some sentimental fashion. When we decide we like someone, all of our work is still ahead of us. The romantic in us can be ready to leave our entire life behind as we know it and go riding off into the sunset with this person. But the rational part of us knows that that's not really how relationships are built. And when we realize that, we all of a sudden start slowing down. And that's what brings a calmer, more grounded version of ourselves to the table. It's also something that raises our value, because what someone realizes is you're not measuring the importance of this person by the strength of their initial impact. You're going to measure their importance by what happens next and what happens after that and after that and after that. In other words, while the romantic part of us is already decorating the halls, the rational part of us realizes there's still a house to be built. By the way, if this video is bringing up for you a very specific dating situation in your life, a question you want to ask about something that feels really unique to what you're going through, I want you to go and ask that question of Matthew AI at askmh.com. This is my digital mind where you can get instant answers to any question that you have in your love life, and they are my answers because it is trained on nearly 2 decades of my content. So you can ask it what to say, what to do, what something means, what you should do next, or use it to get through something emotionally if you're struggling with anxiety about somebody, sadness or heartbreak. Whatever you're going through, I promise you, it is the ultimate coach on demand to get you through it. You can ask a question of it right now at askmh.com, and you even get a few free minutes and free questions if you've never used it before. Go check it out, see what it can do for you. This is blowing people's minds. So many people are telling me right now that Matthew AI is changing their lives, legitimately changing their lives. Go to askmh.com and ask your question right now. Also, quick announcement, guys. Many of you already know this. I have a live weekend retreat happening once only this year in Miami, Florida on October the 18th and the 19th. Tickets are on sale right now at mhretreat.com. We have also just re-released the online tickets. So if you can't get there to Miami in person, you can watch it from wherever you are in the world. This is the ultimate coaching event of the year. It's the best of what I do. It's the deepest work I do. You cannot afford to miss it. So whether you come and join us in person or do it online, get your ticket at mhretreat.com. And the fourth way that we can be more attractive in the first 4 weeks is by showing non-verbal boundaries. A lot of people find that they never get to the point of real connection and commitment with someone because they are very good at protecting themselves by having boundaries. But the way that they have boundaries protects themselves all the way out of things ever going anywhere, right? I hear from people a lot who say, I have great boundaries. I haven't had a relationship in 10 years. Leave me a comment if you relate to some version of that now you have boundaries, it feels like nothing ever happens. A lot of us go through this cycle in our love lives. We started in life by having no boundaries. We got walked all over. We got our hearts broken. We got hurt. And so eventually we learned to stand up for ourselves. But a lot of us then, in the way that we stand up for ourselves, lose the ability to attractively influence someone into wanting to give us more and wanting to be around us more. And one of the ways we do that in the first few weeks is not through verbal boundaries, but non-verbal boundaries. I'll give you an example. When me and my wife were first dating, she wanted me to meet her on her side of town for a date. We had already met on my side of town a couple of times, and now it was my turn. Except I assumed, I'm sorry, but I assumed she would come meet me again. And I said to her, I'm doing something over in this side of town. I'm with my family right now. Why don't you come meet me afterwards? Now, she wasn't going to do that. That was her boundary. If this is to be a relationship of, or, at least a dating of equals, it's your turn to come to me. But she didn't have to spell that out verbally. by saying, I'm really annoyed that you're inviting me to your side of town again when I've been over there the last 2 times and now it's your turn. She didn't need to do that. Instead, I said, why don't you come meet me over here? And she said, I'd love to do something in my side of town tonight. There's a bar I really want to show you. I think you'll really love it. That was a nonverbal boundary. Now, I pushed against that a little bit. I know, I'm sorry. I did. And I was like, oh, do you think you could come over this way tonight? Because my family's here right now. It's hard for me to get away. Excuse. She then said, you know what? It's totally fine. We can do something another night. So she just took the offer off the table. She's like, I'd love to see you, but no worries. We can do something another night. That wasn't her saying, I'm really upset with you and here's why. That was just her saying, oh, okay, if you're going to cross that line, then there's nothing waiting for you there. That was a boundary. A friend of mine, David Kessler, he put it in a great way himself. He said, if you tell someone, hey, I'm going to be in bed by 10, but I would love to speak to you if you give me a call before then. If someone calls you at 11 p.m., having a boundary is not picking up the phone and chewing them out for calling you at 11 p.m. Having a boundary is not picking up the phone at 11 p.m. That's the boundary. The boundary is that there's no reward over here for this behavior, but there's plenty of reward over here for this behavior. You're teaching someone how to show up for you. You're teaching someone where the reward lies with you. That's how you remain attractive, because you avoid turning the first 4 weeks into a therapy session with someone you barely know, and instead just teach people what you're worth. Before you go anywhere, I wanted to just give you a little update from our lives and what's happening over the next couple of weeks. We have been very settled this year. Me and Audrey, my wife, made a pact at the beginning of the year that we weren't going to travel a lot this year. We were going to try and be much more grounded. We felt like we needed it after a crazy year last year with the release of my new book, Love Life, which is back there. And it's been great. But over the next couple of weeks, we are doing a decent amount of travel. Tomorrow we go to Mexico for an audience of 5,000 people, most of them 16 to 18-year-olds who I'm going to coach on confidence and making an impact and how they come across, their communication, which is going to be really, really fun. We then go to Dallas, where I'm going to be joining Jay Shetty, my friend, on stage for his tour event, which should be awesome. I'm excited about that. Then we go to New York for a couple of days, and then we go to Boston for a weekend retreat in Cape Cod, which is something I'm doing as an exclusive getaway for a group of people called Club 320, which is my most private, intimate program I have. I started it 2 or 3 years ago now, and it's become one of the things I enjoy the most, aside from working with me as a group of about 50 people over the course of an entire year. We go away and have an adventure once a year. And this year we're going to Cape Cod on the east coast of America. We're going to be staying in Airstreams on a campsite and getting out in nature and having quality time together. It's going to be so fun. I'll share some of that if I can. I'll share as much as I can with you. By the way, for anyone who is interested in the Club 320 program, we don't have any spaces right now, but we do have a waiting list. I'll leave a link in the description below. Right now, the program is completely full. Every time we've done it, it has sold out literally in a matter of minutes because there's only 50 spots. But when we do have a space, if you're on the wait list, you'll be the first to be notified. So if you want to join that wait list and be one of that very exclusive group to work with me for a year and come on those adventures, sign up on the wait list in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and it means a lot to me that you're here. I know some of you are still newly discovering me, which is so much fun. Others have been watching me for a very long time, and you've been growing with me over the years, which is a very, very special thing. Do you know one of the things that I value most in my life? Peace. All of the little ways that I get to construct this world of calm and equanimity that makes me feel relaxed. But when people are dating, it's really hard to maintain this because there are so many things that rob us of our peace when we are looking for love. One of those things is when we go on a date with someone, we like them, it seems as if it might be going well, and then they fade. Maybe they stop texting us back as much. Maybe they stop asking us out, even if they do text us back. Whatever is the case, it becomes clear that this person that we had hopes for has lost interest. Now, some of the time, maybe even a lot of the time, that has everything to do with them and not with us. But occasionally, it's worth asking the question, is there anything I might be doing that could be pushing someone away? I'm Matthew Hussey, and today we are going to be talking about the 5 behaviors that can push someone away without us realizing it and stop it from ever reaching its full potential. Number 1, we run the risk of pushing people away when we overshare. Oversharing is incredibly common. And by definition, oversharing happens at a time when the amount of information we've given someone is inorganic to our relationship with them at that point. In other words, when we say things to someone who is essentially a perfect stranger that they shouldn't be privy to yet. Now, what does this actually look like? Well, it can look like talking about our insecurities very early in the process. I just hate when people ask me about my height or talk about my height because I've never liked my height. I've always felt like I'm too tall, or I've always felt like I'm too short. That's oversharing about an insecurity we have at a time when someone else is just beginning to form their own opinions on us. I always think when we dump our insecurities onto someone else, we're telling them what to think about us instead of allowing them to decide what they think about us. Oversharing can look like telling someone about deep traumas we've experienced and how we've worked through them, which may be beautiful and courageous and amazing, but is not information that someone who just met you needs to know or even necessarily knows what to do with. This isn't a therapy session, it's a date. Oversharing can look like dumping on someone from our past, no matter how awful that person was, who hurt you, who destroyed your life, who made you miserable. This person in front of you doesn't need to know all of that right now. They don't need to know how badly you've been hurt in a previous relationship. You can allude to the fact that you've had a challenging relationship, but they don't need to know the details. And we don't come off well talking horribly about someone they don't know when they're just getting to know us. It might even leave them wondering, what are they going to be saying about me one day to a perfect stranger? Now look, why do we overshare? We overshare because we're anxious, and when we get anxious, we just start saying things, and then afterwards we go, why did I say that? What was I even thinking when I said that? That was so stupid. So when we get anxious, we overshare. We sometimes overshare because we're avoidant. If I can give you all of these reasons to reject me before you find them out, then it's almost like I'm owning the rejection. If I say all of this about myself and you don't want me, well, screw you. This is me. So it's almost a kind of hedging against future rejection. Some people overshare because they're too trusting, because they forget that information is power. And that someone shouldn't have all of that information on you right now because it can be used against you and you don't really know if you can trust this person. Some people overshare because they've been living in a certain world for a long time, like therapy, and it's very normal for them to talk about their traumas and the way they're healing, and they don't realize that this is a different context. This is a date, not a therapy session, or their best friend who they're talking about their therapy session with. So we overshare for all sorts of different reasons, but the effects of oversharing can be universally damaging. They give people information that makes them uncomfortable, that they don't know what to do with. It brings them into a world of intimacy they haven't earned. So they start asking themselves, why do I have this level of intimacy with this person right now? This doesn't feel normal. This doesn't feel organic. It not only gives too much information to someone we don't trust, sometimes it breaks the bond of trust from their side because they see that we have no boundaries around the information that's stored in our minds. So oversharing can become one of these invisible ways that we push someone away without ever realizing it. I mean, whoever, when they fade out of our lives, puts in a call to us at the end of it all and says, just so you know, I'm fading because you overshared. No one ever. So it's not like this is feedback we're ever going to get from anyone, but it is having an effect nonetheless. And unfortunately, when it comes to oversharing, it's often worn as a virtue by the people that do it. I'm just being me. I'm just being honest. I'm just being authentic. But oversharing is not the same as authenticity. The second way we push people away without realizing it is through negativity. Now, I want to make something very clear. I'm not, when I talk about negativity being a bad thing, advocating for endless, relentless positivity that finds its way into every conversation, no matter what someone says. We have been going through the wildfires here in Los Angeles, and a very helpful video my friend Dr. Ramani put up during these wildfires was advice on how to support people who are going through the wildfires. And she said, if you're speaking to someone who has lost their home, talking to them about how lucky they are to still be alive and to have their family, and that's what's important, might not be the best place to go for someone who's just lost, in their mind, everything. That, as she describes it, is a form of toxic positivity, right? So positivity all the time is not necessarily what is called for, especially when we're trying to connect with people in the things that they're going through. But I think of negativity more broadly as the way that we leave people feeling after we've left them. When they leave us, do they feel like life is a little better? Do they feel a little happier? Do they feel a little lighter? Or do they feel like their lens of the world is dimmer? You know, sometimes negativity takes the form of saying deeply negative things. Other times, negativity can look really innocuous on the surface. It's being the person that every time someone meets up with us and asks us how we are, we say, oh my God, I'm just so busy. There's just so much going on. It's just like, I don't know, I can't catch my breath right now. If that's the energy we bring to someone every time we meet them, at some point that's going to have an effect. It's also true that positivity doesn't mean always finding the bright side. Positivity can just mean bringing a certain kind of energy to a situation. I was reminded of this during the wildfires here in LA when a friend of mine, John Turtletub, a movie director whose movies many of you will have seen and love, was being interviewed outside his house, which was literally one of the only houses still standing in the neighborhood, by the grace of a neighbor who had fought the fires all night to protect it. And amidst this chaos and tragedy, and him and his family worrying that they had lost everything or were going to lose everything, there was still a chance that their house was going to catch fire. They were not out of it and in the clear. He gave an interview because there was a cameraman nearby and an anchor who ran up to him and was like, can we get your thoughts? And amidst all of this sadness, he not only expressed how hard it all was and how terrible it all was, he also managed to make the people behind the camera and in front of the camera laugh. And he did this because he saw that there was something behind the camera that the cameraman should be shooting and wasn't. And as a movie director, he was quick to point out what the cameraman should be doing. Check this out.
Can you believe that houses are still going up right now?
It's crazy. It's amazing there's anything left.
what happens is they're gone, and then if you look over there, that just started, that new flame coming over there. I know he doesn't want to pan over, does he? I'm a movie director, and I'm telling you, pan over. It's pretty great.
It is pretty great there. We are seeing some flames right there. John, you can speak as we're looking at those flames right now.
Now that clip was shot by John's family watching the TV, going through one of the worst times of their life and laughing at the energy that John was expressing in that moment. What I love about this example is that John left people better than he found them by the end of that interview. By all rights, that should have just been an incredibly sad interview. But John, being John, is experiencing one of the worst moments of his life with his family, and has a moment of lightness. And that moment of lightness does not come from him talking about the bright side of what they're all going through. It comes from John injecting his playfulness and his wit into a situation where no one expected it. It came from him leading. And by leading with that energy, he made the guy holding the microphone laugh. He made the cameraman laugh. He made his family, who were going through the worst time of their lives, laugh watching him on TV. And it made the rest of us who were watching that interview laugh in a moment where so many people were crying. So he led with his energy. And that's the part that it's worth all of us looking at ourselves and saying, am I default negative energy or default positive energy? Am I leaving people better than I found them? And I find that, by the way, much more descriptive in some ways than am I a positive person? Because when we think positive, we think we have to say positive things all the time or always show people how to look on the bright side. But when I think of leaving people better than I found them, I simply think of the energy that I bring, sometimes without words at all, that leaves someone better off. By the way, before we get on to point number 3, you'll notice that so much of this is about how we choose to connect with another person that we hope to build a relationship with. And there are lots of wrong ways to connect and some really amazing ways to connect that maybe aren't our default right now. So before I get on to point number 3, 4, and 5, I want to tell you that if you want better ways to connect and you're wondering, what do those look like for me? I have a tool for you that you can use right now. It's called Matthew AI, and you can go and ask it any question you want about dating, about love, about how you come across. You can role play things. You can literally ask Matthew AI any question you want for free right now at askmh.com and get some immediate answers. It's not easy to work this stuff out on our own, but when we have the help of that mentor, which really, Matthew AI is me because it has all of my information, everything I've said up until today, downloaded into it. You're getting the best advice and personal tailored advice for your situation. In fact, I literally had someone send me this email just a couple of days ago. I wanted to drop you a message about Matthew AI. I had a truly awful experience with a man I'd been chatting to intensely for several weeks before we met. I sought comfort in lots of friends, but also reached out to Matthew AI. The response was brilliant. It's a very clever tool, and it actually did make me think more positively after. I was blown away at how clever it is and how it actually really did make me feel less rubbish about myself. So thank you. You've clearly put a lot of effort and Minecraft into it, and it has paid off. Well done. So if you haven't tried Matthew AI yet, go check it out at askmh.com. You can text it or call it, whatever suits you. All right, let's move on to number 3. The third way that we can unknowingly push people away is by drinking too much. This one is going to be a pretty short point, but it is so common to have one too many drinks on a date because we're trying to calm our nerves, or just because we're in the habit of doing that, or because it feels like the thing to do, or because we're trying to keep up with someone else who we shouldn't be trying to keep up with. And somewhere between drink 1 and 4, we become a different version of ourselves. And that version of ourselves isn't necessarily the most attractive version of ourselves. Now, I'm not suggesting that we judge ourselves for the way that we are once we've had a couple of drinks, but I am saying that even though sometimes it feels like our best self when we're drinking, it rarely is. And I don't say this as someone who has any kind of righteousness about drinking. Audrey and I consumed more than our fair share of beers in Japan when we went there a few months ago. So I have no dog in this fight of whether you should or shouldn't drink. But what I will say is that when it comes to dating, it really can take us off our game in unhelpful ways. It can make us less composed. It can make us say things we otherwise wouldn't. We lose a sense of control over our ability to articulate and connect. And for somebody else watching us, it can quickly become something that turns them off when they see it. So be aware of how much alcohol you consume when you're on a date. And it's a great advertisement for having daytime dates where you don't have that pressure to drink. Way without realizing it is by having too much intensity. Now, there's different types of being too intense in dating. Let's explore a couple of them. The first one is with excessive neediness. You know, following up with someone, do you miss me? Why haven't you texted me back? I haven't heard from you. What's going on? Demanding a level of attention and investment from someone that we barely know based on this idea of where we want it to go. In a way, it's kind of like we're not really reading the situation or measuring the true nature of the situation. Instead, we're chasing after something that we want to happen. And in the process, we become the intense one who is doing the chasing. Another kind of intensity is over-familiarity. This is when someone that we don't know, we place at a level of proximity and comfort and intimacy that they haven't really earned. Audrey was telling me about a time when she experienced this kind of over-familiar intensity, where after a single date that she'd had with someone, he started calling her baby. And that for her felt really weird and unearned, and it just made her feel uncomfortable and like there was almost something to back away from. So, you know, pet names for someone that hasn't earned a pet name, good way to be too intense through over-familiarity. There's the kind of intensity where we over-invest emotionally or supportively to someone. For example, you may say, how are you? And someone may say, oh, I've had a bit of a crummy day at work. My boss has just been a nightmare. And you know what? Honestly, it doesn't matter. My boss is being really difficult. Now, a nice response might be, oh, that sucks. I'm so sorry. How about I take you for some tacos to make you feel better? Compare that with the intense response, which might look like, well, that's because they have no idea how valuable you are. Do they? The last kind of intensity is what I call self-help intensity, which usually involves some mix of reading a lot into a situation, using one's intuition, and giving unsolicited advice. And it looks a little something like this. You know, I can't help but notice when you talk about this, it seems like there's more there. Have you explored this at all? Have you tried trauma-informed therapy? I know that made a big difference for me. I mean, when I learned to love myself, all of those old childhood beliefs that I know you're struggling with, they just evaporated, you know. Oh, no, definitely, I was just saying that I didn't enjoy Wicked as much as everybody else seemed to. But no, I should try that. Intensity is scary, huh? Here's the thing. A lot of intensity in the early stages comes from a story that we've been telling ourselves in our head that doesn't correspond with reality. A story about who another person is or what they need. A story about how important the relationship is at a time when you can't possibly know how important it is. A story about how perfect you are for a person or how perfect they are for you at a time when you don't really know each other. The answer to intensity is presence. Because when we actually get present with the person in front of us and the stage that we're at, our words and our actions will be a direct mirror of what's actually going on, not the story we've told ourselves. The fifth and final, yes, we've made it to the final one in this video, thing that pushes people away without our noticing is when we don't listen. This is such an obvious point that it feels like it doesn't even need to be said, and yet the true art of listening is lost on so many of us, including me, when we're in conversation with people, and it's lost for a number of reasons. It can be lost because of anxiety, because we're waiting for our turn to speak, not out of any sense of not caring, but out of a sense of, oh my God, am I going to say the right thing? Am I keeping this person interested? Am I engaging right now? Am I doing a good job? And when we're in our head thinking of those things, we live on the outside of the conversation, looking in, instead of being in the conversation with somebody else. Of course, we can also be a bad listener through ignorance, through having no empathy for the experience of the other person in the conversation. We can also be poor listeners due to arrogance, that I can't learn anything from anyone else. What everyone else has to say isn't interesting. I'm not truly interested in their story. I've already drawn all of my conclusions about this person, this situation, so I'm just going to talk. And of course, not listening can also be a sign in some cases of narcissism. The only words that need to be heard here are mine, and the only thing that's really important to me is impressing you with how great I am, and I can't do that when you're speaking. In any case, not listening becomes this ultimate barrier to connection. It is what has someone leaving a date feeling like they never really connected with us. They don't really feel seen by us. They don't feel understood by us. The question is, how can we become better listeners? And there's so much advice on listening out there, but I want to draw your attention to something I read literally this week. I've been reading this book by Haruki Murakami, the famous fiction writer out of Japan, called Novelist as a Vocation. And it's essentially a book of advice and musings for people who are aspiring novelists, of which I am not, but I enjoyed reading the book very much. There was something he said that really stuck with me, which is that in a somewhat self-deprecating way, he talks about how he's not bright enough or quick enough to draw fast conclusions about things, and that he just sort of has a way of observing the world without coming to conclusions, and that behavior, that way of going through life actually serves him as a novelist, because if you were to come to conclusions too quickly, that would make a bad novel, right? But a great novel is one where conclusions are arrived at somewhat slowly, at a different pace. And he says this, I want to read this to you. Next, before you start writing your own stuff, make a habit of looking at things and events in more detail. Observe what is going on around you and the people you encounter as closely and as deeply as you can. Reflect on what you see. Remember, though, that to reflect is not to rush to determine the rights and wrongs and merits and demerits of what and whom you are observing. Try to consciously refrain from value judgments. Conclusions can come later. What's important is not arriving at clear conclusions, but retaining the specifics of a certain situation. In other words, your material as fully as you can. It strikes me that that is really great advice for a date too. Of course, there are certain conclusions we come to privately in our own mind during or after the date that make us say, yes, I'd like another date with this person, or no, I don't want to go anywhere near this person again. But when it comes to the art of conversation, drawing conclusions quickly becomes a barrier to getting to know someone. For example, if someone tells you about time they went through last year because of something that happened in their life. And immediately your thought is, oh, I know that pattern. They did that because they're this kind of person who has lived this life, and that's drawn them to the place they are today. And now you start assuming all these things about this person that may be right or wrong, but certainly, even if you're right, aren't going to make that person feel heard. Curiosity and continuing to listen and actively ask questions is what makes another person feel heard, is what makes them feel like you are discovering them, perhaps in a more intricate way than anyone else has recently, because no one else has been this great at doing this excavation instead of just rushing to conclusions. There's a great moment. I just want to read you this real quick. He says, let's say you know someone who for no apparent reason starts sneezing when they get really angry. Once the sneezing fit begins, it goes on and on. Now, I don't know anyone like that, but for the sake of argument, let's say you do. What you wonder explains this pattern. One approach would be to try to come up with a tentative theory, physiological perhaps, or psychological, to analyze their behavior. My brain, however, doesn't work that way. I think, wow, people like that exist, and leave it at that. Now, I'm suggesting you go one step further in the little novel that you're writing on a date and suggest that the character in front of you is going to give you some information. Great listening is not assuming everything about what that information means, but continuing to encourage the arc of that story, of that character, to a point where A, you get to know them much better as a result, which allows you to decide whether to go on another date with that person, and B, makes them feel truly listened to, which is one of the most miraculous things in helping you stand out. So what about you? Having heard these 5 things, is there something that you've either done yourself or seen in your friends and family that unconsciously pushes people away in dating and ends things before they need to end? Leave a comment, let me know. I'd be curious to know what you would add to this list. And do not forget to check out Matthew AI. You can ask it questions like, what should I do on a first date? What are the kinds of conversations that make for really attractive conversations? You can even ask it for specific scripts, or ask, what can I do to recover the attraction after a date if it seems like it's been lost? You can ask it literally any question you could conceive of. Go there now and check it out. And by the way, if you're wondering what prompts you could ask Matthew AI, in the description below, I've got a little list of prompts to get your mind working on the ways that you could make it valuable to you. So check those out in the description below and go to askmh.com to ask your question now. Thank you so much for watching as always. It's been a pleasure. I will see you next time. Oh, wait, before you go, if you want a video that will pair extremely well with this one, like a fine cheese, then you need to go here next. He doesn't want to pan over, does he? David, I am telling you, I'm a very well-known YouTuber. Grab some paper, because I'm about to give you 5 things that you can do in early stage dating that I think most people are not doing that will make someone fall for you much harder. And by the way, ladies, you are going to love number 5 because it is going to save you so much time and energy. All right, let's get started. Number 1. Slow down. Most of us, if we're human, we get a little nervous on a date. We get anxious, or we even just get excited. But all of those things produce a pace in the way we talk. When we get nervous or excited, we tend to talk faster. Now, sometimes this is a good thing. That energy can be fun, it can be vibrant. At other times, it means we lose our power because instead of sometimes sitting back and allowing moments on a date to breathe, we talk all over everything. We're so fast that nothing we say gets heard and we look like we're just anxious. So instead, don't be afraid to slow things down. Don't be afraid to take a moment to take a sip of your drink, or even just in a moment look up at him and then look down again. You know, that little moment where you have a moment of tension, but you don't say anything. When you allow moments to breathe like that, you show confidence at the same time as allowing someone to fully take you in. Number 2, let someone finish their story. When someone else is telling a story, many of us take that opportunity to think, oh, I have something that connects to this story, or the thing that you're talking about right now, I also have a story like that, or I've done something like that. So midway through their story, and we've all done it, we say, oh my God, I have something I have to tell you. A story, when someone is telling it, isn't a moment for us to be impressive. It's a moment for us to be impressed. It's not a moment for us to be significant. It's a moment for us to make them feel significant. That's why they're telling the story in the first place. So when someone is telling a story, allow them to finish it before you jump in. Number 3, don't just ask questions, share information. I recently did a TV show where I gave women advice on how to go and have a great date. And then I got to watch these dates filmed. So I literally was able to see these dates play out minute by minute. There was something that happened in 3 out of 4 of these dates that was really unexpected for me. These women did not have a problem asking questions of the guys. They got very curious about the guys. But they weren't sharing information about themselves. They weren't actually getting vulnerable. They weren't connecting because they weren't sharing. What's interesting is that these women thought they were having a good conversation with the guy. They were like, Matt, I'm doing everything right. I keep asking questions. I'm showing I'm interested. But by the end of the day, I just didn't feel like there was a connection. And I thought, yeah, you didn't feel like there was a connection because you didn't actually tell him anything. All you did was sound like a journalist who was interviewing him, but you didn't share things from your life, from your experiences. And that's what would have made him feel like he actually knew you by the end of the date. Remember, curiosity about somebody else can be very flattering, but it will never create a deep connection until you're prepared to get vulnerable about yourself too. Number 4, be present. Now, it is no secret that today we are addicted to our devices. We are addicted to distraction, to Give me 1 second. Where were we? Oh yeah, it's nice when someone's just with us. When we're on a date, let's get into the habit of just putting the phone in our pocket, of resisting the urge to be tempted by novelty and distraction, because in these times, there is nothing more sexy than actual focus and attention. Number 5, stop trying to look perfect all the time. Remember that scene from Bridesmaids, the movie, where she's in bed with the guy, and then while he's asleep, she rushes to the bathroom to put on her makeup and get dolled up, to then get back in bed and pretend that she woke up looking like that. Now, the problem is, in real life, instead of showing someone that we just look hot all the time, what it really does is show how insecure we are. Remember, the you that goes out on date night and puts a ton of effort into getting ready, yeah, she's gorgeous, she's beautiful, she's sexy. And it can be fun, right? It can be fun to take a little too long getting ready. There's a theater to that, to showing up, looking amazing. All of that is cool. But also understand that there are moments where the opposite is just as fun. Where waking up in the morning and embracing the way you are in the morning without having to rush to hide yourself or put on makeup, that's a really sexy quality. That actually a lot of guys, I would wager the majority of guys love that moment where he's like, do you want to go get coffee? Do you want to walk and go and get coffee? And she's like, all right, screw it. Let me just shove on this hoodie. Let's go. That moment of carefree, low maintenance, having fun, being in the moment spirit is actually a very attractive and sexy quality. It shows that you're confident, and it shows you don't need to be perfect in order to feel great about yourself, that you can feel just as good in the moments where you're not trying. Now, I love this video because it's focused on the practical. And whenever we talk about practical things people can do in dating, instead of generic theories, people respond because it gives them something they can actually do today. But one of the problems I see in people's love lives is that they're just not creating any options. They're sitting here, they like these videos, but they haven't actually got anyone to go and try this stuff on. So one big thing we need to be able to do is create options. And the second thing we need to do is, if we have the guy in front of us that we like, how do you actually create massive attraction with that person? Most people don't know how to do that. I have a program called Attract Any Man that is a foundational program that's designed to do those two things for you. I'd love for you to try this program.
program this week. If you just watch my videos every week, but you never actually get in the game and get one of these programs, try it this week. Attract Any Man is here. I'm going to link it up here. Give it a go. Let me know what you think, and I cannot wait to hear your results. As I said, click the link. I will see you on the inside, and thank you as always for watching this video.